You get time.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make sure that my legends get a payoff.
Totally do.
They get their money's worth.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Independent media, you're kicking ass. Talking about sounds like Mondambi. And I got two questions. Why wouldn't you just be endorsing him? And also, are you talking to Mayor Adams and Mayor and the governor?
With respect to affordability, in my opening day remarks here in the House of Representatives, I was very clear that House Democrats were going to focus on lowering the high cost of living.
Commentary on who you don't like. It's a negative commentary on a certain group of people for absolutely no reason. I actually don't think.
You get time.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make sure that my legends get a payoff.
Totally do.
They get their money's worth.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Independent media, you're kicking ass. Talking about sound. Okay. All right. Wow, it's been quite a day. There's been a lot of Epstein news today. Tomorrow I'll probably do a live on the Epstein photos because a lot of photos coming out, and there's going to be a lot of more photos coming out. This is Lauren Burke. But we're here to talk about Donald Trump and his last 2 weeks of being, quite frankly, on a racist tirade. It's been pretty extraordinary to watch any elected official, anytime, any place in any country, talk like Donald Trump has been talking. for the last 2 weeks. He's been focusing most of his racist energy on Somalian immigrants, but this is something that we've seen before. There's really nothing new, unfortunately, about what happened, but the level of vitriol was incredible. Now, a lot of people theorize that he's doing this as a distraction, particularly as a distraction from the economic news, particularly as a distraction from his polling numbers, which are absolutely terrible, but just as a distraction from everything that is negative that's happening for this administration right now. The economic news is absolutely terrible. And the Epstein news is probably going to push him over the edge, I suspect, next week. Either way, some of what he has said at cabinet meetings, at events, is really just extraordinary. And unfortunately, it's historic for any president to talk publicly the way that he's talking. I just want to flash back, though, back 7 years ago. I believe this was 2017. This was CNN in 2017. It was sort of interesting to look back on this.
Corrupt media, Korea. He tweeted the words fair trade in all caps. What he did not do was mention the racism at the heart of Roseanne Barr's tweet. And keep him honest, whether it's because he doesn't feel it's necessary or appropriate or to appeal to elements of his base or for some other reason, it is part of a pattern. The president, when faced with a racially charged issue or situation, does not initially confront the racism in it. This is what he was faced with in Charlottesville, Virginia, one night last summer during a weekend that would end with one woman dead.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
People marching through the streets in Charlottesville chanting "Jews will not replace us" and chanting "blood and soil" and other Nazi slogans. Here was how the president saw it.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Fine people on both sides, which is a rather broad-minded interpretation, which is not true. That's certainly not in the video you saw, which was the demonstration from Friday night. Not according to a journalist who was there in the crowds, who told us point blank that what you saw there was exactly what it looked like. Neo-Nazis, other white supremacists marching, spewing hate. The White House initially defended the president's remarks, but later the president gave a more full-throated statement, saying in part, racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. What's interesting, though, was that this was not the president's first instinct, which was to avoid a full-throated condemnation of what seemed plain to see. Something similar played out on the campaign trail when candidate Trump was asked about racist remarks by David Duke, a figure citizen Trump had been commenting on and even disavowing since 1991.
I want to ask you about the Anti-Defamation League, which this week called on you to publicly condemn unequivocally the racism of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So,
yeah, right. That was a really interesting thing. He still does that to this day. When he doesn't want to answer a question, he pretends he has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Who's David Duke? I don't know who David Duke is. Who's that? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that he would not know who David Duke is. But when he doesn't want to deal with a question, that's how he deals. That's how he acts. Like, oh, I just have never heard of this person. I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, racism. What's racism? I have no idea what that is. It is a routine that he does a lot. I'm going to take it to a clip from KGW News in Washington that in part outlines what he said at the cabinet meeting, which was incredibly racist.
I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country.
President Trump there unleashing a tirade against Somalis earlier this week, at one point calling them, quote, garbage. His rhetoric coming amidst reports of ICE operations in Minnesota, specifically targeting that community. Alma McCarty talked with local Somali Americans here, and Alma, it sounds like they are understandably concerned.
David, the Somali community in Oregon pays attention to what's going on in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, which is home to thousands of people of Somali descent. Although the population here is smaller, the impact of this negative messaging hits home and drives many to worry.
Kids who are born here, never even been outside of the country, many of them are now having to carry their passports or their birth certificates. Women who are wearing hijab now think they are target. People who may have a less English proficiency, even though the U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents are now worried.
Ismail Warsam.
Yeah, I mean, and they should be worried because when you look at the video of people getting kidnapped effectively with no due process, you should be extremely worried if you're in any immigrant community in the United States, but particularly if Donald Trump starts targeting the community that you're in. That is where it gets extremely scary. Now, think about it. Days after he went on his little tirade, he actually went on 2 tirades. There were 2 separate tirades. This one I'm about to play was the second one. Right after that, we saw a video of a man being effectively abducted. I mean, let's face it, by people who are claiming to be agents of the government and law enforcement of the government, otherwise known as ICE. Quite frankly, you don't really know who they are because there's no identification. And when you have your mask covered, when you have your face covered and you have badge covered and any sort of ID that would define you as a law enforcement officer, that gets really weird, okay? Because that means that anybody could show up with the word police on their chest and claim that they're law enforcement with no identification and showing no identification. And even more than that, showing no warrant for arrest. That is what this administration is doing right now. That is what they're conducting. That's the world that they have created right now. And that is incredible. And it is incredible to me that the so-called less government Republican Party thinks that that's okay, that posture is okay. That is absolutely incredible. But that's exactly what's going on. The reason that they think that that posture is okay is because Donald Trump is the one administering that policy. And so suddenly now it's right. And can you imagine for 1 second if this was a Democratic president, what these same Republicans would be saying? I mean, it is incredible. And so is this next clip, even more incredible. President stands out there, and this is where having partisan media, this is where having media that plays politics and doesn't just tell people what's going on is actually dangerous, right? Because everybody at Fox, nobody has seen any of the clips that I'm about to play.
It's a permanent pause on third world migration, including from hellholes like Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, and many other countries.
The saddest part of this clip is not Donald Trump talking, because we've heard this all before from Donald Trump. The saddest part of this clip is watching the reaction in the crowd.
I didn't say shit, all you did. Remember I said that to the senators that came in, the Democrats. They wanted to be bipartisan. So they came in and they said, this is totally off the record. No.
You know, there is no way you can tell me that these people do not know that what they're hearing is wrong. There is absolutely no way. They know that it's wrong. They're too weak to be in resistance to it. And that is a sad thing. It's really pathetic to watch. It's pathetic to watch how weak people are and how easily led they are and how easy it is to get people to go along with things that they know is wrong. I mean, the idea you just go along with this and it's funny and everybody's clapping, that is actually sort of scary to watch for a lot of reasons.
Nothing mentioned here. We want to be honest because our country was going to hell. And we had a meeting. And I say, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
That right there it doesn't get too much more racist than that. I don't know how you can come up with another clip.
Tonight, 7 News on your side, continuing pressing.
That's worse than that. I mean, it is unbelievable, some of the things that Donald Trump says. And even more unbelievable is everybody going along with it that is sitting alongside him. They put on sort of, this is a broad camera angle from the end of the table in the cabinet room, but interestingly enough, I mean, there was some tighter shots where you just had the president. I actually liked watching the reaction of the people to his left and right, Marco Rubio in particular. But we know what Pete Hegseth, we know where his head is at. But it is pathetic. It is pathetic how easily led, the level of cowardice, the level of inability to stand up against what's wrong, the level of just weakness on people and how easily led people are is really one of the stunning factors of Donald Trump.
Bench, really a tremendous bench. But no, I think that Waltz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him. Okay, there's something wrong with him. And when
once again, everything is projection. Everything that he says is what he does.
you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. It hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off. And now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing.
Who knows what the hell he's talking about when he's saying that? I mean, that is, again, who knows what he's talking about? Nobody knows.
The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
I actually think he's getting this part from Elon Musk. I have no direct evidence other than the fact that Elon Musk's father said something very similar to this, the sort of idea of we're going to lose our country and we're at a tipping point if we don't stop. That sounds a hell of a lot like Elon Musk's father and Elon Musk. So, I mean, it's really interesting to listen to, you know, he's back to this is our last chance. You know, what he's saying, I'm surprised he's just not saying it, is that we're about to be taken over by minorities. I mean, that's just what it is. That's the obsession. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the Republicans were telling the Democrats that everybody's always talking about race and why you guys always talking about race and you're race hustlers and all this other nonsense. These people can never stop talking about race. I mean, that's all Trump and his friends talk about. You know, Stephen Miller, the whole bit. This is what they're obsessed about. They're absolutely obsessed on this subject matter. So I don't know what they're talking about with anybody else talking about. I don't think anybody would be talking about it were it not for the fact that they keep bringing it up.
Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great.
You know, how insecure and stupid do you have to be to say stuff like this about anybody, a member of Congress, anybody? But it's insecurity. It's deep, deep, deep insecurity. Deep insecurity. And it's pathetic. I mean, I don't know why, why people did not know who this guy was before they voted last year at this time. I have no idea. But there was nothing really new here. It's just that he's consolidated all of his words in a worse way, and he's ramping it up. I think he's ramping it up again. I think this is about attention at the end of the day. I do think that 90% of what you see Donald Trump do is about attention. Everything is about trying to capture your attention, trying to get your attention, trying to keep your attention. He knows talking like this will do it.
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
You know, once again, it's everybody's complaining. Everybody's complaining. What is Steve Bannon and Miller and him doing all the time? All they do is complain. I mean, why aren't they happy? They control the entire government. They control the White House. They control the U.S. Senate. They control the U.S. House. They control the Supreme Court. They're still not happy. They're never happy. They're never actually happy. They're stealing all the money out of the Treasury, giving it to their friends through contracts, and they're still not happy. So give me a break. I mean, it is such projection. It is incredible. And you notice that the so-called, mainstream media, there's not a whole lot of reporting on this. I mean, I find it very interesting to watch the New York Times and the Washington Post right now. You had a president that went on a 2-week-long tirade, a 2-week-long racist tirade. And nobody does like a magazine piece level thing. I mean, you're so concentrating on Olivia Nunzi. Why don't you do a piece on this? You got an American president talking like this outwardly. Typically these stories are heard in the background in somebody's book. Woodrow Wilson, whoever it may be, Richard Nixon or Woodrow Wilson or someone like that. Oh, he used the N-word in the background, that type of thing. Donald Trump is saying all this stuff in public. He wants you to know. This is his branding. He wants you to know that these are his feelings. He's not trying to hide. In fact, more than not trying to hide, he's proud and wants you to know that this is what he's thinking. I mean, I find that element of this to be very interesting because typically there, of course, was some shame in being a racist, right? Not anymore, right? He wants you. He wants everyone knowing that this is what he's thinking. And so what does that say? And I think that right there is a bat signal to everybody out there that thinks as he does. Hey, you're not alone. You got a president of the United States who thinks like you do as well. Isn't that amazing? The problem is the backswing to it all. And just like there's a backswing in his favor, at some point, there will be a political backswing against him. And of course, everybody's predicting that for 2026 with regard to the congressional elections, which you can absolutely assure yourself with the approval numbers that we're watching right now, there is going to be a tremendous political backswing. I think a 20 or 30 seat backswing in the U.S. House. I just think the level of pressure going back the other direction is just going to be absolutely tremendous. I mean, you cannot deny it. You can't talk like this and get away with it politically for long. This is Keith Olbermann on Countdown.
Praise him today because he may not recognize you tomorrow. Secondly, with his nauseating attack on Somali Americans in Minnesota yesterday, we will no longer accept any debate on this point. Donald Trump is a full-on white supremacist, a racist bastard who is no longer hiding it, who cannot hide it anymore, who is so out of control of his own mind that it is all pouring out now, and thus who cannot continue as president. The hood is off. And thirdly, it is increasingly obvious that the Democrats must have put out the "do not obey illegal orders" video when they did, because there is a chain of evidence that has come to light suggesting that the September 2 kill the boat survivors order from the Secretary.
Yeah. I mean, let's listen to that again, shall we?
A racist bastard who is no longer hiding it, who cannot hide it anymore, who is so out of control of his own mind that it is all pouring out now.
I don't know that he's out of control. I think a lot of this is very thought out and deliberate, more thought out and deliberate than we might expect. I mean, it may look as if, oh my God, this is an out of control tirade. But if you look back on a lot of the things that Donald Trump does over the years, there's a certain level, I think, of thoughtfulness behind some of the tirades. It's a certain level of, yeah, I know I'm doing this for a reason. And again, I do think a lot of it is for attention. But man, when you talk like that, people are going to remember that. A lot of people are going to remember that. And a lot of people are going to feel like, this is not who I want representing me as a leader in the country. I think there's going to be a tremendous political backlash next year. I think it's already started. We're seeing the Democrats win in places and spaces and seats, the Miami mayor thing, and starting to see things like that happen. And that indicates that, yeah, that this is coming. There's going to be a backswing, and there's going to be a surge of Democrats that get into power in 2026, or really starting in 2027. I'm going to go back to the clip from Washington of members of the Somali community reacting to what President Trump was saying, which for them is a scary thing. When you're in a minority group and you get targeted by the president, everybody sees that. There's going to be some things that happen as a result of his words.
And Abdi Fattah Abdurrahman explaining the current experience of many Somali Americans, especially following some incendiary comments made by President Trump.
He said the Somalis are garbage. We are not garbage. We are doctors. We are police officers. We are teachers. We contribute to this country in every aspect of life. And Somalis are not reliant. And they add not, as he said, they add little into the community. We add more to the community. We contribute a lot to the community.
A community now on edge, even in Oregon, after reports of planned targeted ICE raids in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Though administration officials say they're not targeting the Somali community, but instead enforcing deportation orders already issued by judges.
I used to do crisis management, and I'm one in my previous roles in the past. I'm doing full mode crisis management right now.
A big focus.
Oh, I bet he is. I bet he's doing crisis management right now. You better believe it. Well, you have a community like that, really scared, and you're watching videos of people who look like you get thrown down to the ground and are telling the ICE agents that they're American citizens, and the ICE agents aren't even paying any attention, could care less. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to be in one of these minority groups and then have, jackbooted cops with their faces covered, throwing people to the ground, trying to ship them to El Salvador or wherever the heck they're trying to ship them. It's a very strange situation. But man, there is no question in my mind. If he is not the most racist president, he's certainly in a top 3 situation. Everybody talks about Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, certainly we lived obviously in that space in the 1920s. We live in a completely different technological age. And one of the things about our technological age right now is that we know everything. We know too much sometimes. We know everything that somebody says. We've got a recording, or it's right on Twitter or Facebook right away. You didn't, of course, have that previous to the advent of television. Even after television, you didn't have it. So, certainly Trump is in a different space in terms of communications and us knowing all the things that he has said. But man, I think it's hard to argue. I think it's hard to argue there's anybody who could be worse than this. Obviously, I've got the colonial guys of the 1700s. But man, this is bad stuff when you're sitting in a cabinet meeting and you are talking like that about any constituency in the United States. That carefreely and not, I want it out there. I want everybody knowing it. I'm proud to say these things. That was the sort of tenor of it. It's a pretty incredible thing. And I think it's an extremely, I suspect, a very scary thing for not only the Somali community, but certainly the Mexican-American community, which has been targeted by this president as well. What brings us to an end? Who knows? I think what brings it to an end is the end of his presidency. But what I think brings it to the end, before that is, it's not to say he won't say things, but the change in Congress will slow down this roll a little bit. We'll see what happens. But man, I mean, this is what the president has been saying for the last 2 weeks has been a little bit scary to watch. The sort of unhinged nature of it. We've seen it before with him, but it's really getting to a point where, man, that is going to have a result on the back end when you put that type of energy out there into the world. You are going to, you're going to loosen up somebody out there who's weak that will act on his behalf. I think. I mean, I hope not, but man, to just be totally targeting one community like that, it's just always a dangerous game. I'll be back tomorrow with some Epstein related stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable how many things are coming out with the Epstein files. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's 90,000 photos out there. But at any rate, this is Lauren Burke. It's Lauren Live. And I will be back tomorrow. I wish I could do another live right now, but I got to go and look at the files of what the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee put out with regard to the Epstein files. And everybody's still looking to see if they're going to drop anything else. I doubt they'll drop something on Saturday. So that brings us to Monday, which may be a snow day at the U.S. Capitol on Monday. But we'll see. At any rate, this is Lauren Live. I will be back soon.
Somewhere. Thank you. Are you watching now?
Yeah. No, I was watching when I left, but it's excellent. I love it. I love the traffic's blowing up. You were in Brooklyn last night. Where?
I was in Bushwick.
Okay, my grandmother's house is in Crown Heights.
Oh, yeah.
So when I saw you, I was trying to look at what the pizza place was to see where
As soon as we got there, someone recognized the pizza place. They're like, we got to get out of here. Someone had
get out. It was great.
blown up our spot.
This show was freaking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it, man. Love it.